I've been involved with Green Party since 1999 when it started in Texas. And where I lived, there were a bunch of people who were introverted and didn't want to deal with the media. And so I kind of got pushed into being a public face. Plus I was young and female, and it's like, oh, we got to increase the diversity here. So because of that, I ended up becoming really the public face of the party in this state. I've spoken to every kind of media you could imagine. And I also worked at a newspaper for Alternative Weekly in San Antonio. I was in the business department, which was great because I couldn't be quoted. So I could go talk to the editorial staff about whatever and say whatever, and they could never quote me. So it was a really great experience, but I really got to understand how journalists kind of operate. And a lot of it has to do with building a relationship. If you want to get coverage in the media, in print media, in local TV, you need to learn who the journalists are that cover the issues that you're interested in talking about, who covers politics, and who seems receptive to our ideas already, because they're going to be the most friendly. And really it comes down to just getting in touch with them, telling them who you are, asking if you could meet, and just have like a, hey, I just want to introduce myself and have a conversation. Not asking you for a media piece. I just want to tell you who I am, what I'm doing, and that way you start that relationship. And you have to, in a lot of cases, you have to build those relationships over time. It may take a year before you actually get a piece about something, but you have to start building those relationships so that in a year you're getting media coverage. And that's pretty much what I did before I got the job there. We had media that we knew who the friendly writers were in town, and whenever we would see them at an event or something to protest or whatever, we would just be sure to be like, hey, how are you doing? How things are going. Just being polite and friendly goes a really long way in almost anything, right? And TV is a little more difficult. They're not always out at the street or whatever, but if you see them out at protests, or if they go to debates or forums or wherever you are, even if you just happen to show up at somebody else's event and there's media there, you can easily go up to them and introduce yourself and be like, oh, hey, do you cover politics in this at this station? What station are you with? Get their contact information, give them your contact information. This is a common thing that people do. And it seems kind of intimidating, but they're just people. They work, they get paid crappy wages, and they're just like everybody else. So that's more just about building that relationship, right? When you're talking to media, keep in mind that everything you say is likely to be quoted. Absolutely everything you say. Unless you happen to go off record and they're willing and tell you, yes, we can go off record and have an off record conversation. But it has to be explicit. If they don't explicitly say this is off the record, then it's on the record. And in fact, I'll tell you one time, after I had a major car accident 5 years ago, and I had trauma and was not speaking very well at all. My sentences, I was stopping. And I knew this journalist really well, and he called me to talk about a major media blow up we had in 2010. And I didn't know we were on the record. And I said all this stuff because I thought we were just having a conversation. And then the next thing I know, it's all printed in the media. And it wasn't like he did it to me intentionally. He didn't realize that I didn't realize. And so, that can happen if you're not very explicitly clear that you're on or off record. Unless you're live, TV and radio, like, they will edit and they'll tell you, we're just gonna take this and we'll edit it. And so if you mess up, you can actually do it over. And you can be like, hey, can we cut that and let me say it again. And usually if they're friendly, which in my experience, I haven't had any real hostile media experience. Even if they like write a piece that's not really pro our stance, they haven't been hostile to me personally. So, and I mean, they'll tell you like, no, we're not going to do it over. And then you just move on. And so public relations stuff, that's about what message, really it's about propaganda is public relations, okay? Public relations came out of World War II. The nephew of Sigmund Freud developed public relations because he wanted peace and didn't want to see another Holocaust. That's where the origination of the field of public relations. And there is a code of ethics, but there are very few people in PR field that adhere to those ethics. But it has a lot to do with what's already been said about speaking the truth and being ethical about what you're saying and what you're not saying. I will, since we've done a little bit of Candidate 101 as well in this, is please don't say your opponent's name, ever. Mm-hmm. You're giving them free publicity. So everyone, if you say my opponent, and if you've only got one opponent, it's easy, right? It's like my opponent. But if you have more than one opponent, it's a little trickier. Like, well, one of my opponents says this, and let them go figure out which one it is. The point is that if you say their name, actually a candidate did this earlier today, and I was like, no. But if you say their name, people are going to remember their name. They're not going to remember your name. And then they're not going to remember why they remember their name. And you're also just giving them free publicity. And if you notice, Bill Clinton, for example, when he gave that speech at the DNC, I didn't watch it, but someone told me about it. He did not say the opponent's name at all. He just alluded to him. And that's exactly what we should do. We need to do. And Cecile mentioned a few points. You really want to know what your 3 points are, right? You may have 20 issues that you could actually affect because you're running for Congress or state legislature, and there's a whole slew of issues that you could talk about, and you will get a chance to talk about them, but you really want to stick to 3 and make sure you hit them every single time because they need to be repeated over and over and over so people remember. And then when you are answering questions, like Martina said, answer it directly. And people will have way more respect for you. If you don't know, you say, I don't really know about that. Can you give me some more information and I'll get back to me. I have had more people come up to me and have more respect for that response than making something up like my opponents have done in the past. And then also you can they give you like, some radio interviews I've done, they've let me just talk as long as I wanted to talk. Pausing, however, lets them interrupt you and ask another question. So talking quickly can really get you a lot more time. So what I found is that answering the question directly, and if it's a really short answer, then you can expound on things and bring up other issues that are tied into that, and you can make those connections. But really, this should be part of you. It's good to have a media plan, and even if it's not all written down on paper and everything, as long as you have it in your head, every time I talk to the media, I'm going to make sure that I hit these subject matter. And you can have like set press releases, right? That what you want them to expound on in the media, you can write up in a press release and send it out. And then you can pull out pieces of that and send it to your social media. So you can just write one piece and then split it up and put it in a lot of places. Then you can make a video of your press release and, take it as a template. Like, okay, I'm going to talk about this topic. I'm going to make a quick video. I'm going to pull this 140 characters out and send it out on Twitter. And so you can really just work off of that piece of material that you've created. And that's really what public relations is all about. You're developing a message that you want to get out into the media and put it into a format so that you can easily go back to it when you need to refresh for an interview. if you need content for social media, or if you want to send out press releases, and also for your website, right? You can, the same content that you put on your website, you can turn into a press release, you can turn into a video, you can turn into social media. It's all very connected if you look at it as, this is my plan is to get this media, this propaganda, right? This message into the public mind.